Shalom, everyone. On this Holocaust Memorial Day, with the title Light in the Dark, I'm very honoured to have been asked to speak to you and to share my thoughts on this very, very important day that must never be forgotten. The theme this year is light in the dark. And when one takes into consideration the horrors of the Holocaust and the current grim world situation with rising anti-Semitism, racism, Holocaust denial, hate crime, white supremacy, and the growth of far-right political groups, finding light in the dark may seem an impossible task. The Holocaust, or Shoah, as Jews prefer to call it, cannot be denied. There is enough historical primary evidence to prove that approximately 6 million European Jews were systematically persecuted and exterminated by Nazi Germany during World War II. Every Jewish family has a horrific story to share. Millions of people in other groups were also murdered. These included ethnic Poles, Romani gypsies, travelers, Soviet citizens, prisoners of war, people with disabilities, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other political and religious opponents of the Nazi regime. When we include all of these people, the total number of victims exterminated by the Third Reich is estimated to be between 11 and 17 million people, including children. And since that terrible time, there have been further Holocausts, and the suffering of certain peoples across our planet continues to this present day. Knowledge of this fills me with despair. Do we never learn? Does it have to be like this? Does history simply keep repeating itself? How can we talk about light in the dark when the human race continues to commit these atrocities? Some people say that you can never change the world, and that anyone who attempts to do so is either a fool or mad. Well, if that's the case, I thank God for the so-called fools and mad people who have the courage to speak out against injustice and show us a path of light that can be found even when great darkness appears to prevail. At the end of the day, we're all responsible for what goes on. When confronted with situations that are wrong, we have to make a decision. Do we find the courage to speak out and say, no, that's wrong. This must stop. That must not happen. Or do we remain silent? Do we turn a blind eye? Do we let the bullies win? By remaining silent, darkness takes over. Suffering continues and hope is lost. Some of you know I am the founder of the Peace Mala educational project and charity. And that is linked to 9/11 When 9/11 happened, I was still teaching as a head of religious studies in a large comprehensive school in Llanelli. Coed Cai was the name of the school. In the aftermath of the terrible Twin Towers event in New York, a small number of my students suffered racial and religious bullying. First it was the Muslim children, then it was the Sikhs, and finally it was the Chinese. These teenagers really suffered. I wasn't aware of the bullying at first, but I was immediately aware of some alarmingly ignorant, hateful things that were being said in my lessons and in the lessons of colleagues in my department. This state of affairs went on for quite some time, and eventually I got to hear of the bullying. And when it reached that level, I knew that something needed to be done, something educational needed to be done. But what? Reporting the bullies to the head teacher, to management, wasn't enough. Something else needed to happen, something educational. I felt compelled to try and do something to help, but what? What could one teacher do? I realized that I needed to find a way to get some facts straight, to cut through the lies, to cut through the taboos, the fears and the prejudices that are passed on from one generation to the next until they become, oh, well, that's the truth, isn't it? No, it isn't. What I came up with was so simple that I wasn't sure it would work. My idea was a symbolic double rainbow bracelet, which I eventually called a Peace Mala. And here it is. Here's the bracelet. This bracelet is loaded with powerful messages. Every bead, every knot, even the thread carries a message. It's something that young people can make for themselves and then wear. In the process of making the bracelet, they learn about the golden rule, which exists in all world religions, spiritual traditions and philosophies. What is it? Treat the next person as you wish to be treated yourself. How simple is that? The bracelet also reminds us about human rights and dignity. It empowers the wearer, but it also reinforces the fact that in life we have choices and responsibilities, and that everything we say, everything we do, even everything we think has an outcome. And most importantly, it reminds us that we are all members of the same human family, and that we all belong, and that we all have a right to be on this planet. We are now in the 18th year of the project, and the Peace Mala has travelled beyond Wales to other parts of the United Kingdom and Europe. It's also reached Canada, the USA, Egypt, Israel, India, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries I've already forgotten. All over the world. Thousands and thousands of the Peace Mala bracelet have gone out to communities, schools, faith groups, community groups, youth projects. And in recent years, we have developed the Peace Mala process of education, accreditation, which is an educational process. a very exciting one. And last year, we were delighted when our first American school in Florida, Sunrise Academy, achieved accreditation. Very, very exciting. The work of Peace Mala is not a luxury, not a decoration. It is about transforming the lives of children who may be sad, lonely, rejected, into children who feel useful and important members of society. And for those children who are more fortunate, it's a way of them reaching out to their brothers and sisters all over the world with compassion and friendship and love and affection, the true foundation for world citizenship. I like to think of the rainbow beads on the Peace Mala as representing the human family in all its glorious diversity. It is a very sad fact that fear and ignorance sometimes gets in the way, and that difference can be seen as a threat. And yet, it is these differences that make life interesting and fun. Of course, underneath the differences, we are actually all the same. We all want to be loved. We all want to belong. And we already do. But sometimes people forget that. Peace Mala works to empower and educate everyone by using creative and innovative approaches to key issues and concepts. It's especially focused on global youth work, human rights, and interfaith dialogue for peace. It also contributes to education for global citizenship by inviting all people to treat each other with respect, regardless of race, colour, religion, gender, sexuality, age, size, ability, social class, or caste. The very first knot made on the Peace Mala bracelet begins with a very important, empowering message that says, "You are unique and special. Each one of us is important, no matter what." And then the whole list of issues, ideas, whatever it is that certain people have concerning certain, I don't know, categories, labels, whatever that some people want to pin on certain groups of people. And we say, look, we're all the same. Underneath it all, we are all human beings with a beating heart and a mind and feelings. Let none of us forget that. At the very heart of the Peace Mala project is the compassionate wish that people, animals, and the environment, very important, that all be at peace. Young people hold the future of our world in their hearts and minds. And education is the most vital, powerful means of getting important messages through to our young people, to help youngsters develop into adults, responsible adults of the future, who will care about each other and the planet and everything that lives and exists on planet Earth. Teachers and youth workers are in positions of great trust and influence, and they can help our young people work towards a more compassionate world. The Peace Mala educational project is most certainly a light in the dark. that is already contributing to positive changes in our world. And by working together, each one of us can make a difference. Teachers, youth workers, ministers of religion, the police, government agencies, all should lead the way. And also many ethical organisations and charities and initiatives that exist here in Wales and in other parts of the world. All can work together. I believe in partnership. I believe in working together. I believe in sharing. Don't keep in your own little box. Let us come together, help each other, support each other. Together we're stronger, remember. And we can make compassionate changes in our world. Remember, positive change always begins with the efforts and vision of one person. And that means each one of us. As Mahatma Gandhi said, you must be the change that you wish to see in the world. Don't wait for others to do it. You do it. And when each one of us works for this in common consciousness, miracles of hope and change will start to happen. Let our vision stay bright. Be a light in the dark as we all work together for a more compassionate, tolerant, and just world. Shalom.